Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Pursuit of Profit. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, as always, Leanne Ozaine-Smith. Hello.
Hi, here we are again.
Do you like the Ozaine in there?
I do.
You've given me both. It's like Leanne Smith or Leanne Ozaine-Smith.
You know, the thing is this. If you understood what the Ozaines are, I'm one of them. There's 4 of us girls, all with red hair. Now we've got
its own distinction.
It's kind of an adjective for this spicy, zesty Ozaine-ness. And so I kept it because I married a Smith, which is like, how do you go from being an Ozaine to a Smith? So actually, interesting factoid, I'm half German. And so in Germany, you actually keep your maiden name, and it's really important in the culture to actually pass it on to your children. Oh. So once I hyphenated after I got married, I learned that that is an absolute nightmare with anything legal. No. And so when I had my kids, both of them have Ozaine as one of their middle names. So
nice.
Like Elise is Elise Noel Ozaine-Smith. So
nice.
We have some Ozaine going through all of it.
It's kind of like the Lannisters always pay their debts. It's like, you know, the Ozaines always have zesty spiciness.
I know. It would be really fun to get all the Ozaines together and just give the audience a sample of what it's like. It's pretty crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you. Leanne Ozaine-Smith. I figured that's probably why you put it in there, but I had to ask. So, well, listen, I want to talk about shame. Shame.
Oh, let's do that. I think I'm drinking the wine from the last episode. Okay.
Did you leave the bottle open this whole time?
Well, we're recording 2 episodes in one day. So
don't tell.
Kings. We're still drinking the Kings of Prohibition. It's great.
That is not what I meant by shame, everybody listening, in case you didn't get the transition there. We're talking about shame and money, but Leanne's wine tip is the same as last time. It's Kings of Prohibition.
Kings of Prohibition.
Well, listen, Leanne, there's always late adopters, right? There's early adopters, and then there's the late majority. Some of you listened last episode and you didn't rush out to Trader Joe's and get Kings of Prohibition. And so now we are repurposing that wine tip for all of you laggards.
Exactly.
You laggards, go buy Kings of Prohibition. Give it a try. Let us know in the comments how you liked it. Give us some tasting notes, some pairings.
That's right. Okay. That's right. I like it.
Now, on with the show. I want to know, I want to know why this came up for you. And you don't have to get specific because we keep people's, situations confidential. But this situation is, I think, prevalent in humanity. So what came up? What came
up is, it's interesting, Chris, because when people hire me, they have figured out in their own self, they're ready for change, right? And they're like, dude, this has got to be different. I want something different financially for my business. Yep. And so usually I find that by the time somebody is sitting in front of me and saying, let's do this, Leanne, they are ready to dive in and do the work. Rarely does somebody come to me that says, let's do this, and then let's not do this.
Like they came and said, let's do this, but then in the doing of it, they weren't doing it.
Correct.
Like they weren't doing the work.
They're not doing the work.
Got it. Okay.
So I have this lovely, I'm talking high performance human being that came to me, and she talked about how her lack of organization with finances is holding her back, and she wanted to cut the tie of restraint around that so that she could just really step into her best financially. She knew that she needed some structure and organization, and the lack of it was creating fear and was creating strife in her, and just not knowing how the financial situation was supposed to settle for her. She just knew, I got to fix this because it's holding me back.
Yep.
I hear that all the time.
Yep.
This thing about money is holding me back. And so in she came, and 4 appointments later. So here's the thing. When I'm working with a new client, I ask them to do something very simple. I think it's simple, but I asked them to give me 4 months of bank statements. And the only reason I want to see their bank statements is I want to actually look for patterns. So I go through and I look and I look and I look, and I'm like, oh, you buy, you have Dropbox, and I just look for patterns, like what emerges in the spending behavior. And because I'm not connected to the business, I see it differently. So I ask everybody to come to their first real coaching appointment with that information. She showed up, she didn't have it. And then she showed up the next week and she didn't have it. She came today for the 4th appointment and didn't have it. And so I sat there and I actually said to her, why are you here? What are we doing here? If you aren't willing to do this part, how can I possibly move you forward? And she got teary and she got scared and her body language completely shifted in front of me. This powerful woman, you guys would know her if I said her name. This powerful woman shifted in front of me and couldn't even answer the question. So as I dug, it came out that she was really afraid to let me see what she spends money on. And she's really afraid, more importantly, to look and see how much money she made and how much money she spent. She didn't even want to see it herself. And so there was this little moment, it was probably insignificant to her, but I saw it for what it was, where she was being vulnerable and felt vulnerable, like she felt exposed and hadn't shown me a single thing. In 4 coaching appointments, I haven't seen a single number come out of this woman. And I just thought it would be a good conversation starter, because I know that this is not unique to this client. Like the point is that they work through that fear and stuff before they sit down in front of me because they want change. But in this case, she's doing it in front of me. And I find it extremely precious, to be honest. And it's a wonderful opportunity to be there for somebody to say, I promised you that I would get you out of the financial fog, that I would get in it with you, hold your hands and pull until you have clarity. And in her case, the obstacle is in her. You
know what I love? What's so good about, well, first of all, for if she were ever to listen to this, good for you, right? Like it takes courage. Like when you see something you want, like change, you're like, I've got to have change. I want this to be different. And then you take the leap. You're like, but then so good for you to have the courage and take the leap. And you're like, oh God, what did I just do? I threw my hat over the wall and I'm stuck straddling the fence. And I'm like, what did I like? And now, I mean, that's the beauty of throwing your hat over the wall is now, what do they say? First you make the choice. And then the choice makes you. Right? She made a choice and now the choice is making her. And sometimes, gang, you listening to this, sometimes what you need to do because you're so afraid to do it, you just got to throw your hat over the wall. Make the choice, because then the choice will do some of the heavy lifting for you in putting you in those uncomfortable conversations that need to happen. And for a lot of you, you just haven't had that conversation yet. You might listen to this show and be like, oh, I know I need to change here. I know I need to change here. But you haven't thrown your hat over the wall. You haven't made the choice that then makes you. You know what I mean? Totally. Like that's so good, because this is like, and so I'm hang on, let me just keep going. I think part of this is many of you listen to this, you still haven't reached out to Leanne. That's the point, right? It's like those that have reached out to you, Leanne, have already been through this conversation. And so what we're trying to do is to serve you guys who haven't had this conversation yet, to say, we're trying to give you some tough love in the sense of like, hey, like, let's go. Like you've seen something for yourself. You want to make some change. And we know that it's scary. We get it. We know that it's scary. And we're sharing with you real life examples of like, this was today, right, Leanne? Like
it was.
People who are successful.
Very successful.
And confident, who at the conversation of money shrink and feel scared. That's
almost fetal position. Like,
right.
Body language, demeanor was fetal position.
It's terrifying.
But how brave of her to do that, right? Like,
how brave.
Even though there has been no progress for her. And even though she, I think, is wasting her money. Like if she doesn't want this change, I can't make her change. I can't make her print her bank statements. I can't. I even tried. I was like, print them now from my office. Couldn't do it. So there was like a massive block, but she stayed in the conversation. She comes every week on time, right? She stays in the conversation. And I just want to like, I just want to affirm that. Like, change is tough. And you're going to feel like money. I think I've said this before, but people are more comfortable talking about their sex life than they are about their finances. There is a something shameful about this subject. And it's difficult to open up to a stranger about it. But on some levels, I actually think it's a lot easier to open up to a stranger about it, because somebody like me on the other side of the country, I'm not going to run into you at Trader Joe's or Starbucks, right? Like I'm not in your circle. And people don't believe me when I say this, but it's actually true. I think part of my gifting is that I don't remember numbers. So I literally do not, I see numbers all day long for so many businesses that my brain cannot associate them with the right person. So when I'm doing like virtual CFO work and I'm looking up somebody's payroll, I have to look up their payroll. Even if I've coached them for a whole year, I cannot remember what somebody's budget is off the top of my head.
Right.
So I don't associate numbers, good ones or bad ones, with the person sitting in front of me. I see the person. Yeah. I see the potential, and my job is to help them see the profit. Like that's the role that I play in this. Yeah. And I am proud of this client, even though she's totally immobilized. She keeps showing up and she's staying in the conversation, and we're going to get her there.
Stay in the conversation. I think, we titled this like money, putting your head in the sand, right? Money, colon, putting your head in the sand. Yeah. Right. Or did we say how to get your head out of the sand? Maybe that's what we said. Either way, I think the thing about that behavior is that because it's so confronting, then we look for distraction, right? We like, in other words, that's what putting your head in the sand is you, there's something there. You're like, I don't want to look at that.
Yep.
So we go on Facebook and we scroll, or we go on YouTube, or we watch shows, or we go to bars, or we like whatever it is we do.
Yep.
To put our head in the sand so we don't have to, it's not just see it, it's feel it. So we don't have to feel it. That's the thing, is that the most uncomfortable piece of all of this is the feeling of shame around money.
Yep.
It's not the number as much as it is the feeling that is attached to that number.
Yep. Yep. I have a story that I want to share.
Yeah.
I've been on the fence about it because we have a mixed audience, but I think it really applies. There was a point of time, like I was a super tomboy, total tomboy. I grew up in a really poor family. Fashion and beauty was not on our value system. It was just not a thing. And I still got a guy to marry me, and I was this like ugly thing who just ran around in my hair in a ponytail all the time, and literally just shopped at Goodwill. Like I just didn't know any other thing. And then when we got to the city we live in, there was a big merger with these companies, and my company, I actually had to move into the office with our competitor, and I'd spent 1.5 years stealing their accounts. This was one of my first corporate jobs. Wow. So needless to say, these women that were my now coworkers absolutely hated me. They hated me. And now I represented the controlling company, and they just hated me. So anyway, one day I was gone. And I came back and I overheard these women talking about me. So that saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, but that is what this is about. So I stood there in the hallway and I listened to these really mean girls, say terrible things like, oh my gosh, we're going to like look up a Mary Kay lady and send her to her house. Where does she buy her clothes? Doesn't she know how to like style her hair? Like it was all external stuff. And it was all accurate. All of it. Even though it was cruel, it was accurate. And I remember leaving and calling my husband and saying, I am going to go spend thousands of dollars because I wanted to change this. Like I'd never wanted that image. I didn't even put any thought into it. I just accidentally fell into it. And so there was a day that night I went to Nordstrom and I asked to have a man in the men's department dress me. He put me in a stall. I don't think I've ever shared this with you.
I've never heard it. No. No, this is great.
Put me in a stall. And I was nervous. Like I was wanting to throw up because I've been this ugly girl my whole life. And I didn't know how to style my hair. I didn't know anything. And so he put me in and he said, first thing you do is you get down to bra and panties. And I was like, just dying. Right. And so he has me in the stall and he is looking me up and down and up and down, and all of my insecurities coming up. Like I think he's thinking my hair is awful or my shape is awful. I was just thinking all these horrible thoughts. Like I felt like I was going to puke, but I wanted to not be that girl anymore. I wanted something different. And so I let him look at me up and down, up and down, up and down. And then he looked at me and he said, you know what you have? You have fabulous legs. You need to always dress from the feet up. So he called the shoe department and up came shoes. And I was in this uncomfortable, vulnerable situation for at least an hour. And then that man dressed me for 3 years until I learned how to dress myself.
Wow.
And I learned how to do my hair and I learned how to put on makeup and I became different.
Yeah.
So today, when this client was here, she was like sharing her anguish with me.
Yeah.
I'm like remembering this moment, standing in a dressing room, having somebody look me up and down, fully expecting to hear nothing but, wow, girl, you got problems. But instead, he looked at me and said, you have fabulous legs. Let's dress you from the shoes up. And awesome. I'll never forget that. Like, I feel like people are like me in that moment where they're afraid to get undressed and show me their stuff financially because they think when I'm looking up and down and up and down and up and down that I'm looking for something to criticize when in reality I'm looking for what's awesome and what I can compliment and what potential is there so that we can draw that potential out and create a profitable and happy business experience for that person. Yeah.
You should share that story when you speak. That's a great story. You have, you're really finding some juicy ones here. Like we went through your $1 million mistake.
All my insecurities.
Yeah, I think every episode of your show should just be you sharing another insecurity or another failure. Well, I think that's the whole thing about shame and vulnerability and transparency is that when we share our transparency, it gives others the freedom to be transparent as well. And I think a lot of this world, I think one of the reasons why we hide our head in the sand is because we look at Instagram and Facebook and we have conversations with our friends and our family and everybody's got some story about money and puffing. Like we just always see it's like all the models, if you will. We just go like, oh, everybody's got it figured out but me, which is not true.
Not true at all.
But this is the impossible expectation we put ourselves up against, that everybody has it perfect except for me, or everybody knows what they're doing except for me. And because of that, then we hide our head in the sand. And I think the place to shift that, or I think the way that gets shifted is go read any of Brene Brown's books. First of all, just go read any of her study. All of her work is based on research, right? Like psychological studies, etc. And it's around the power of vulnerability. Yeah. Which is such a juxtaposition, right? Like power in vulnerability. Yeah. But it's true because I see this from a marketing side of things. I see this where people in marketing try to market as if they have it all together. And the problem with that is nobody can relate to that. No. It doesn't move anybody emotionally. And if we all know like sales happen through emotion. Emotion is what buys. Yeah. Logic justifies, but emotion is what creates the sale. Yeah. And the fastest way for you to create emotion is not to talk about your product or your service. It's to be transparent as a human, right? And so once you get that, did we ever talk about 8 Mile and Eminem, the movie 8 Mile? Did you ever see it? Okay, well, it's you should watch it. It's good. Okay. If you like rap, or you just like a good underdog story. But at the end of the movie, and I'm going to give you the ending. They're used to doing these rap battles where they diss each other in the battle. So I basically punk you for a minute and a half. Throwing you under the bus and telling you that your mom is ugly, rap, right? Yeah. And then it's the other person's turn. Well, at the end of the movie, he actually throws himself under the bus. So his entire rap is him telling one on himself. Wow. And so then the other guy has nothing to say. He's like, I can't diss you because you just dissed yourself. Like, how could I do worse than what you just did on yourself? Yeah. And once you do that and you own your fallibility, you own your imperfections, all of a sudden you go, oh, nobody can say anything that I haven't already said myself. That's right. And all of a sudden you start to feel powerful. I've had that experience of starting to feel powerful by owning my imperfections and telling the world my imperfections.
Wow.
And being strong in the moment of saying it, right? Then you're like, do you see what just happened to people? I just told you. So what could you possibly say to me that would make me feel worse? And not that it makes me feel worse, but what could you possibly say that I don't already know and have acknowledged?
Right.
Anyway,
right.
I guess I'm saying stop hiding your head in the sand by owning it and telling the world about it. I mean, you have to go on a show like this and tell the world, but I mean, like
apparently I do.
But you're a leader. You're leading people into this new frontier of their finances. So you have to.
I do have to.
That's a prerequisite for you.
I'm learning how.
Anyway, I get fired up about that because I really see a lot of people suffering from the mental chatter about how they think they should be different than they are.
Yep.
And being ashamed and afraid of their imperfections, when in reality, like, we're all imperfect.
Yep. And one of the things I think our dear entrepreneurs need to take from this conversation is, look, here's the thing. Nobody taught me how to get dressed. Nobody taught me how to make sure that my crazy, naturally curly red hair isn't frizzy all over the place. And nobody taught me how to paint my nails. Like, nobody taught me. So why would I know that? I mean, besides looking at like magazines or something, why would I know that? Like, I wouldn't know that. It wasn't taught to me, not even a little bit. And I feel like that really applies to everything, but especially finances. Like, most of us weren't taught how to run a business. Most of us weren't taught how to manage the finances of a business. We get into it and we're neck deep in it. We're like, oh crap, like, this is complicated. Oh, by the way, I'm terrible at finances in my personal life, and I have a business that I have to do. Like, this is crazy. And so I just I want to let everybody off the hook. Like, you weren't taught. How could you expect yourself to know these things? And what is wrong with learning how to do them? Like, there's nothing wrong. At 26 years old, I sat in a chair and said, show me what to do with my hair. And I learned, right? So it's just a skill.
It's good. Yeah.
Money management and creating profit out of your business and owning the financial side of your business where you're not afraid of it and you're not putting your head in the sand. It's just a skill. And it just takes practice, and it just takes some teaching. So get taught. Get taught. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there aren't a lot of places to go to get the kind of education that we provide at Pursuit of Profit. Like, we are in the trenches, rolling up our sleeves. Let's get it. Rolling up our sleeves. Let's get it so that you understand it kind of coaches. So we love our work. You just got to be taught, and then you got to practice. And then you'll have the skill.
It's beautiful. Well, if people want to be taught, people want to connect with you. They were like, okay, you got me. Let's do this. I'm ready to be vulnerable. How do people reach out to you?
ProfitDiscoveryCall.com.
ProfitDiscoveryCall.com. I love it. Yes. And that's where you can go to connect with Leanne and her team. You can schedule a call there. And then that's you throwing your hat over the wall, right?
Got to start somewhere.
First you make the choice, then the choice makes you. And that is the gift. That is the gift.
Tagline of the show.
Yeah. Awesome, Leanne. Great stuff. Thank you for sharing vulnerably. Thank you for sharing vulnerably.
Thank you.
That was,
I blushed all over the place, but we got through it.
It was a great story. It was a great story. But that's the thing is, okay, well, let's just stop because I could keep going. But that's the thing is it makes it all of a sudden I'm like, oh, not only do I respect you more, but I see strength in myself now, my own weakness. I'm like, oh my God, I could do this. I could learn. I could figure it out.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what you provided for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Until next time, take care. We'll see you. Bye.